Hello and welcome to another episode of Face to Face. My name is Godfred Akoto Boafo. My guest today is a unique one. He's a priest, he's an academic, and he's an administrator. Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayose, the General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana, is our guest on Face to Face. Welcome back to Face, and welcome, Reverend Dr. Fayose.
Thank you very much.
Interesting times we are in for the Christian community of Ghana. COVID-19 seems to have stepped in and upset the balance of what Ghanaians know.
Yeah.
What has been the response of the church?
Well, the response of the church is to do everything in our power to contain this disease. We realize that it can't be contained because it has been contained. It's being contained in China right now. It's beginning to subside. It has plateaued, reached its peak, and is beginning to subside. So we believe it can be contained here as well. So we are tackling it with prayer. We are praying around the clock in our churches that God should take this, and we believe that God can do all things. We are also taking personal precautionary measures to make sure that we don't contract or are not infected by this disease.
And
by washing of hands and use of sanitizers and staying away from public gatherings. And if you have to cough, in case you have it and you have to cough, you cough well by covering your mouth.
Public gatherings, churches basically are built on the back of public gatherings. How well is the education going down to your congregants that what the government is trying to do is right for you? Because we do know that there are persons who will not listen. How well is the church educating its members?
There are a few of our members who are not too happy with the fact that we have to shut down churches, we have to stay away from public gatherings. We should not worship, we should not pray, and we should not do all the normal things that we do. Because I think that in all situations, prayer is one way to get out of it. But we are encouraging them that the government's directive is a good one. Because unless we take certain drastic measures to contain this disease, it will overwhelm us. It will spread, and if we are not careful, it will come to a point where we can't even attend church because we are all sick. So it's better we take some measures, close churches for a while, so that we can contain it, and then we'll be free to go to church as we regularly do. So that is what we are saying to them. That's how we are educating them, so that they accept it and stick to the directive and take personal precautions as well.
So have you found other avenues of communicating with your members in this period, considering you no longer, because there are certain members who might need counseling at this period. There are those who might need certain kinds of services at this time from your members. How are you going about that?
Thank God for technology. Now we have social media, we have WhatsApp, we have Facebook. So we are telling our pastors to be innovative, to find ways to reach out to their members. You don't have to gather to pray. You don't have to gather for the pastor to preach to you in this day and age. So in this day and age, you can still be rich. You can still reach your members through other means. You can even have an offering. You can have the collection, what we popularly call collection. You can have that through mobile money, through Momo. Ask your members to send their Sunday collection on a Sunday. So basically, we can still do everything apart from public gathering.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I had an interesting suggestion today, just on my way to speak to you, where some religious leaders have suggested this has happened as we get close to Easter, which is a very important date on the Christian calendar, and have suggested perhaps it might be time for leaders like yourself to meet and say, let's find another date for Easter, even though Easter historically fits into a certain time calendar. Maybe it might be time to find a date just for this year, but Easter should not be missed. What do you say? What do you think of that suggestion?
I think that is a good proposition, and I will take it up with my leaders with the members of the council and see whether we can do something like that. To tell ourselves we will not celebrate Easter at this particular time, but we'll celebrate it maybe a month after the date, the scheduled date. And maybe that would be a good way of containing COVID-19 and then at the same time celebrating Easter as we celebrate it.
How do you keep people calm in a situation like this? Because if you've been to the markets, people are not calm.
Yeah.
How do you stay calm in a situation like this?
Yeah. Provide as much information as possible to people and they'll be calm. It is when people are not too well informed that they become scared to the point of panic. I hear in some countries their supermarkets are filled to capacity and their shelves are empty because everyone is trying to grab stuff, feeling that there will be a complete shutdown of their society. But education can take that away. And I think I must commend the government. The government has done well so far in providing the necessary education to the point where we know that even we should take precautionary measures not to be infected by the COVID-19. But even where we are infected, the fatality rate is quite low. So it's not the end of the world, even if you should be infected. There is some treatment that can be given to you, and the chances are that most people recover.
Yeah.
It's only a few. So once you know something like that, it is not like a death sentence to the point where you panic so much that you start running helter-skelter. So one of the ways to keep people calm is to educate them, give them as much information as they need. They should not be in the dark at all. The other thing is, once the thing got to Ghana, we were made aware, and I must commend the media as well for making that possible and for providing the necessary information and education. Once those things are in place, we are okay. And how to combat it, the use of sanitizers, washing of hands, and so on. Once people know, in fact, Ghanaians are very innovative. One of the things I hear they are doing now is that akpeteshi, which normally is seen as an illicit liquor, is becoming
the go-to solution.
The go-to solution because we don't have sanitizers on our shelves anymore, or they have become very expensive. And someone said at Agbogboshi that with 1 cedi of akpeteshi, you can use it for a very long time to sanitize.
That's interesting. But there's also a crucial role the church plays in this, because Ghanaians are very social people.
Yeah.
And weddings, funerals are key to this.
Yeah.
Now, we've been told that keep numbers very low. For a wedding, for instance, keep it under 25. For a funeral as well, only essential people. How are your members taking this? Because weddings are important things for people. So are funerals. Some have suggested perhaps postpone. How are you convincing people to do this?
Yeah, it's a very difficult situation to be in. Having set the date, you know how difficult it is to set a wedding date, for instance. But even for funerals, you set a date, you inform people. Sometimes people travel from around the world just to be part, to say goodbye to the family member, the deceased who had passed away. And all of a sudden, here you are, you cannot do that anymore. It's tough. Some people have decided to go ahead and do it anyway with the small numbers. Some people will hold on, postpone it, hoping that after 4 weeks, but postponing it has implications. It may mean incurring more costs. If you decide to have it with the smaller numbers, it means you have to cancel all the bookings that you have done for chairs, for canopies, for venue, and so on. There are all kinds of implications. But in all of this, I think we should do what is best for the situation. I think I know some family members who have said we'll go ahead and do it with the small numbers, and in fact that may even be be beneficial to the family. You know, we have always said Ghanaians, we love funerals too much. So that may be one bright side of this very negative COVID-19. Maybe COVID-19 is teaching us to be modest when it comes to funerals. So only 25, we do it in a short time. You don't have to go for chairs, tables, canopies for 1,000 people. But those 1,000 people may still, because they are loved ones, they may still extend their, what do you call the money we give at funerals? In Akan.
In Sawa. Yes.
Yeah, they will still give it, but they will not come and bother you. They will just still give that. So it may be another way of handling funerals, or maybe COVID-19 is teaching us another way of handling funerals and even weddings, to be a bit more modest.
Now, you know, moving past the COVID, which you've explained basically what the church is doing, your organization is celebrating 90 years. It's come quite a long way, from 5 members to what, 30 now?
Yes, we have about 30 members.
What have the Christian Council been doing? A lot of people hear the Christian Council, but they will ask, really, how does the Christian Council affect my life?
Okay. The Christian Council has been doing a lot since 1929, when it was established. It was established by mainly what we call the mainline churches, 5 or 6 mainline churches. They started it all. And since then, we have been impacting lives. First of all, the primary reason why we were set up was for the churches to join forces, to unite. Because Jesus, in his prayer in John, for his people, before he just ascended to heaven, he said that they may be one. As you and I, that is, he and the Father, are one. That they may be one, so that the world may believe. And you know, Christians, we have all these different lines or understandings of the faith. Let me put it that way. I will not call it divisions, but different understandings of the faith. But in all of them, we all believe in a common Lord, in Jesus Christ, a common baptism, a common Eucharist. So we try to put aside our differences and unite on what unites us, our commonalities. So that is our primary reason. But once we are united, we are not united just for the sake of unity. We are united so that we can have a greater voice. We can make more impacts on society. We can speak truth to power. We can be a voice for the voiceless. And that is what Christian Council basically had been doing over the years. Pre-independence, maybe 4 or 5 of the big 6 were members of the Christian Council.
Really?
Yes. So what I mean by that is the impact of the Christian Council on the lives of these individuals helped in the independence movement. Fast forward to after independence, when there were threats of a one-party rule. Again, Christian Council spoke up, and that helped the situation. Fast forward to the Fourth Republic. I want to leave out even the military regimes. Even in the military regimes, when no one could speak, because when you speak, sometimes you disappear, the Christian Council could still speak. We still spoke very loudly. And because of that, again, there was transformation in society. There were movements from military regimes to civilian administration. And then fast forward to the Fourth Republic. Christian Council was very instrumental in the run-up to constitutional rule. So the process of even coming up with a 1992 constitution, Christian Council was heavily involved. And we have been involved since then in making sure that elections are free, fair, and credible. We have been doing voter education. We have been doing election monitoring, educating the electorate generally to exercise their franchise. We have been embarking on peace walks and peace marches. This is just on the political front. On the social front, we do a lot of other things.
Interesting.
We rescue children that are into child labor and child slavery in the Volta. We advocate for young girls to have education. We advocate for mothers to have the right to do what they have to do. We do all kinds of advocacy. I can't mention all of them from the top of my head right now.
But
when it came to HIV/AIDS, for instance, we were instrumental in educating our people in how to conduct themselves, the ABCs of how to take care of HIV. We did all of that as a council, yeah. And
one will also say that as you've evolved, so has the nature of Christianity also evolved in that regard. Do you think the Christian Council is at par with where the modern day Ghanaian Christian sees and believes Christianity to be?
Yes, I think so. Christianity had evolved tremendously since the early days of Christian Council of Ghana. It used to be only the mainline churches. Then there was the Pentecostal wave, and then the charismatic wave, and then the African independent churches. So now we have this multiplicity of traditions. It is not just the mission-based churches that came from Europe to us. And so yes, Christianity is a bit more challenging now, and we have to step up our game, but I must say that we are still very relevant. In fact, anytime there's any issue in the country, any national issue of national concern, people say, where is Christian Council?
Yeah, and
there are other councils. We have the Catholic Bishops' Conference, we have the Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, but regularly, and then other councils, but regularly what we hear is, where is Christian Council? So Christian Council, I believe, has set a certain mark, and people still look up to us. And once we speak, people take it seriously.
But you also face modern problems. So that's, for instance, in the past 3 or 4 years, security would not have been an issue that would have mattered, and by that I mean within the church itself. Yes. But in the past year and a half or so, we've seen you double in terrorism. I've seen a lecture that the Christian Council has organized to deal with terrorism. I've seen you talk about sanitation. You spoke about elections. Now there's COVID in there. How is the church being flexible in dealing with these very modern problems? Let's talk security, for instance. Is that something, did we just touch it and go because now we no longer see or feel that somebody will come and blow up a church in Ghana?
No, that is a very eminent threat. It's still there, and we have to take it seriously. And that is one of the things that Christianity is facing in our modern times. The fact that we are so interlinked that people could come from around the world or from around the continent to cause havoc in a small town in Ghana in a church. We have realized from recent occurrences that now churches are becoming easy targets for some of these terrorists. So as churches, we have to take certain measures to kind of safeguard our churches and our members. And some of the measures we have taken is to educate our members. As you said, we wrote some pastoral letters, and we did some training as to how to protect their premises, so that we are, as the president said, we are no longer in ordinary. We are not in ordinary times. These are extraordinary times, so we must be a bit more careful. So we must watch who is around us. We must set up security fences around our place. We must put up CCTV cameras. Sometimes we must use the metal detectors to make sure no one carries a weapon into service. some of these things are going on, and we are encouraging our people not to relent, because the evil one is just waiting for you to relax, and then they'll pounce on you.
And on sanitation, for instance, you spoke about the advocacy that you've been doing. There are those who criticize the Christian Council for not being strong enough as it is on other national topics, like sanitation, because a lot of the traditional members of the Christian Council on Sunday morning, members who go to the church, clean up the church, make sure it's ready. But these self-same members don't do that in their communities, and the church has never really urged cleanliness in society. Even though we say we are a Christian country, God-loving country, we quote cleanliness is next to godliness. That is not the issue. Would you say you can do better than you have done?
Oh yes, there's always room for improvements. We have done quite well. In fact,
really,
we have done quite well, but we can do better. I say we have done well because if you go to a traditional Christian compound and community, you realize that it's a place of a difference. There's a certain cleanliness about what we call the Salems or the mission compounds over the years. And that has not changed in certain places. If you go to a typical Presbyterian community and compound, you see a certain cleanliness there. The streets are lined with trees. Some of them are painted with white at the bottom. The lawns are clean, and you don't see litter all over the place. That has been the tradition, but we can't clean up the whole of the bigger society. That is what. That's why you think sometimes we.
But you influence so much.
When people come out of those communities, then they begin to behave like the people in these other communities. So, as part of our 90th anniversary celebrations, we are embarking on a plastic recovery project. I was saying that Ghana is quite not a clean country. That's why our president says within his tenure, he's going to make sure that Accra is the cleanest city in Africa. Or Ghana is the cleanest country in Africa. We, as a church, also think we should do something like that. So the council is embarking on this project. We pick plastics from our homes, our pure water sachets, our pure water bottles. We save them. We don't put them in the normal trash, in the normal garbage bin. We separate them from the normal garbage, and then collect them on a Sunday and take them to a collection point. Usually these collection points will be a church compound, a church premises.
Okay.
And then everyone brings their plastic that they generated in their homes. They bring it there, and then we have a bigger amount of plastic, and a recycling company comes for it.
Okay, so is this something that you are educating your members on across the country? Every church that is a member of the Christian Council of Ghana will do this?
Yes, actually we had a workshop recently where we invited all our members, their head offices, officers on sanitation. So they are, if you like, they are health officers or sanitation officers or hygiene officers, whatever they call them. We invited them to a workshop and we gave them the training. The idea is for them to go back and pass the message on to their churches. We are piloting this in the Medina area. We are going to launch it very, very soon. And the idea is that the churches in the Medina area will collect their plastics, and then a recycling company will come for it.
Okay.
The reason why we are concentrating it in one area is to make it easy for the recycling company to pick it up.
Okay. So what kind of impact are you looking at this making in the fight to make Ghana clean? Are you hoping that after this year you would have created enough of a habit in people to do this? Is that the intention?
That's the intention. And right from the word go, we would have been solving the waste management problem or challenge that we have in Accra, for instance, in the big cities. for instance, by maybe 10% or 20%.
Okay.
Because all the plastics will now not go to the dump sites or where they try to fill, what do they call it? Where they fill
the landfill sites.
The landfill sites. The 10% or 20% of our waste will be reduced because the plastics are not part of it. That is the very first impact that is going to have. But the other impact is to make it a habit, for people to realize that it is their civic responsibility to keep plastics away from the other garbage, because we can save it and we can reuse it, and in doing so, we are saving the environment.
All right, then.
Yeah.
You are watching Face to Face with Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayose, the General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana. When we return, I'll have a conversation with him about what I call the uninvolved Ghanaian Christian of today. Face to Face will be right back.
For all the news, analysis, projections, and policies that affect your business, curated and delivered in a simple and timely format. Watch Business Dashboard, your most comprehensive source of business news, every weekday at 7 p.m. only on City TV. Business Dashboard on City TV is sponsored by ADB Bank, truly a Greek and more.
Spend 30 minutes every weekday catching up with all the trending social media conversations of the day. If you tweet it, we'll read it. We might just even Skype you. 30 minutes is all it takes, so use the hashtag 30minutes on social media to catch our attention. Join the most interactive social media TV show weekdays at 5 p.m. only on City TV.
Welcome back to Face with Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayose, General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana. Now, Reverend, let's talk a bit. Let's do theology a bit, since that is an area of yours. Now, there are those who say, for a country that says 70% of us are Christians, we don't reflect that kind of doctrine and lifestyle. The Ghanaian Christian is called an uninvolved Christian. He goes to church, after that, he forgets what he hears and doesn't live that life. What is your take on that?
I think that is a fair assessment to a large extent, that there is a certain disconnect in the Ghanaian Christian between his worship life and his, I'll call social life. He is a Christian on Sunday, and then Monday through Friday, it's as if he is not a Christian. And that disconnect has been a major concern to the council as to how best can we educate our members so that what they hear on Sunday, the Christian message that they get, that have been pumped into them all this time, will have a real impact on their lives. It will be demonstrated in their lives. Because if Ghana is regarded as a fairly corrupt nation, not only the people at the top, but in fact the entire nation,
generally,
all of us have some amount of corrupt practices in us. For instance, if you are arrested by the police for running the red lights, you are more likely to give him 5 Ghana cedis and go away free than that kind of thing. Or when you go to most of our public offices where they are supposed to render services for free, if you don't give them something. So we all engage in these things as if they are nothing, but they are very, very serious corrupt practices that make life impossible for some who cannot pay in our country. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So how should the church preach and teach its members so that it goes deep down into their way of life?
I guess that was going to be my next question, because perhaps maybe it's the way the message is being preached to the Ghanaians.
Well, I must say that they say that a Christian is not of this world but lives in this world. So sometimes the structures and the pressures of life of our society sometimes make someone who otherwise would have been a good Christian even succumb to some of those pressures. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's something that we have to continue to say to people, to live above board, not to succumb to some of these pressures, not to succumb to temptation, for instance, to use a Christian terminology, not to sin, but continue to rise above the sins. Those appeals will come, but we have to do better than that, because we represent a certain person, a certain body, and a certain faith. So my point is that the teaching is good. We must continue to do it, and the people must also, the members must also live up to it. But that is difficult. My point is that it's not easy living up to it, especially when there are certain pressures in your society. But we must do our best. That is the Christian quality. We must be like Christ. It wasn't easy for Christ. Christ was in a very violent, volatile kind of society. Eventually, he ended up on the cross. But he still did the right thing all the time. And that is what we are called to do. Yeah.
But that also brings me to part of the problem where some say perhaps you struggle to impact life much because people don't see a reflection of themselves in you as perhaps back then. So there are those who have the opinion that, and that's why I asked you about evolution of the church. Maybe the congregants and the church are not in tune generationally. And that is why perhaps maybe we are struggling to get them to understand the message.
Yes and no. I mean, everything is changing. Yes, we still preach the same old way that we have preached over the years. But we know our young people will rather go on YouTube and Facebook, even to worship. Okay, and that is happening in some places. We are a bit slow to catch up with that, but we are trying. We are getting there. Most of our congregations are beginning to air their messages on some of these social media platforms. So we are getting there. But I think that no, because the message is still the same. It is the mode,
exactly,
the medium of carrying the message to them that is slightly changing. But the message is still the same. And we believe that is making an impact. Believe me, if you go to other countries where Christianity is not so deeply rooted in the society, then you see the difference. So Christianity has had an impact and is still having an impact on us as a people, on Ghana as a country, in so many ways. But there's room for improvement. That's the point, that we can even do better.
And also in handling that, I guess it brings me to another point of criticism where there are those who say the church doesn't handle excesses very well. And so the church is only interested in money, for instance. Let's deal with that and then we can talk about the other things. Is that what it is? Is the church only interested in our money? That is what a lot of people perceive most churches that fall under your ambit to be about these days. All they talk about is money. How can we get money out of the congregation, even the poor ones?
Initially, you said, I mean, the church has evolved over the years, and I talked about the different strands of Christianity that we have, or of churches that we have in the country now. So when you say the church sometimes that blanket, umbrella kind of understanding of the church makes it difficult to answer a question like that, because it is very clear that the churches that fall under the ambit of the Christian Council of Ghana are well-established churches, and they do not belong to any particular person.
Certainly.
It's important to make that point, so that the monies that the church makes are not for me as a pastor of the church or for any elder of the church, but are for the church and used to serve the people and to serve God. Okay, it's used in mission, it's used in ministry, it's used in social work, social action, advocacy. Some of that comes to the Christian Council of Ghana so that we can do all the things that we have said we have been doing. So in those well-established churches, we can't say that they are in it just for the money. We have schools. In fact, we started building schools before the government started building schools.
And we'll get to your schools.
And most of the schools in the system are mission schools. Let me put them there. Mission in terms of even Christians and Muslim. Some of the best schools in the country at all the different levels, the primary, the secondary, the tertiary level. Some of them are mission schools. About 40% of healthcare providers are mission healthcare providers. That is what the monies are used for. So we are not in it for the money. The monies that come, the offerings that you give, we use it to serve society, to serve. And some of our health facilities and our schools are in the most deprived areas, so that we don't set up these facilities in places like Accra where you have all the hospitals, all the schools. We go to a place where there is no hospital. 100 kilometers around, you can't find any. So those hinterlands, those are the places where we go and set up these things to really serve the poor and the marginalized in society. We do so many other things. Of course, there are some of these newer churches, newer brothers and sisters of ours, and we are trying to bring them into our fold and kind of give them the necessary training. And sometimes some of them go out of their way to make it look like it's all about money. It's all about the offering that you are going to give to them. Okay, so that's why I said it's such a wide spread when you talk about the church, that if you make such a statement, it's difficult. It fits some part of it, but it doesn't.
But even with that, I will still stay on, because then let's say most of the Orthodox churches, in that regard, then still find themselves in some of these situations, because you're also dealing with a generation who sometimes will tell you the church is not exciting enough for me. They need excitement. I'm sure you've heard that before. Yeah. How does that make you feel when a young person, perhaps you've baptized in your church, reaches 18 and tells you, I need to find something more exciting in my religion or in my faith to stay here, and leaves? How does that make you feel?
Yeah, that is it makes me feel it makes me feel bad, but at the same time I can't restrict them. There is a freedom of conscience and a freedom of association rooted in our constitution. So people are free once they turn 18 or they are of age to go where they want to go. And in fact, it is also true that because sometimes of the structures in our churches, we have lost many of our members to other churches. Because, like you said, they do not find some of the things we have in our churches exciting. Most of the Pentecostal, charismatic churches have absorbed a number of our members, primarily because of that. One of the things that is very missing in the so-called Orthodox churches, I should not speak for the churches directly because I'm a member of the council, but I'm also a pastor of the church. I'm a member of the EP Church,
Yes.
Evangelical Presbyterian Church. I'm a pastor of the Evangelical Presbyterian Church. So I'm aware of this, that our way of worship and style of worship is too Eurocentric, it's too European. So that it doesn't appeal to the African, even the young African. Apart from the technology bit that we talked about, it doesn't, just culturally, we like dancing and drumming, and some of those things are not too much in our churches. But I must say that we have made a lot of progress since maybe the 60s and the 70s. We've made a lot of progress. Now we have introduced those things into the so-called Orthodox churches that sometimes you can't tell the difference. Okay. Yeah, so we are doing all in our power to appeal to the younger generation and to the African spirit in us, so that people will enjoy our services and will want to serve the Lord in our service, in our churches.
You spoke about education, and I tried to do a count of the schools that you control. By that I mean I'm looking at over 1,000 schools.
Huge. Oh yeah. I mean, when you talk about 1,000 schools, you're talking about one church. And I'm telling you, we have about 30 of these churches and organizations in the Christian Council. But if you take the Methodist alone, if you take the Presbyterian alone, you take the Evangelical Presbyterian alone, you take the Anglican alone, they may have 1,000 schools.
Yeah.
If you take from all the levels, from primary, secondary, colleges of education, and then tertiary, they can have 1,000. Even one congregation, one church.
Do you feel...
One denomination.
But do you, however, feel you are impacting the education outside of just the structures that you are putting up as much as you would want to? We know there was a period where you basically directed what to go in the curriculum, what the mode of training would be, how teachers were recruited, what you could say, what you could not say. Now you basically just own the schools with the government, in partnership with the government.
Yes.
Do you want an opportunity to perhaps influence the schools a bit more?
Oh, as part of the partnership with the government, we try to make sure, embedded in that partnership understanding or agreement, is the role of our faith in the running of the schools. So, for instance, we want a member of the faith tradition to be the head of the school. Even though it's government assisted, we want the person to be our member. And we want our faith tradition to be exhibited in the life of the school. So even though government pays, as part of the partnership, pays the salaries of teachers and so on, there's still a remarkable difference between a completely public senior high school, for instance, and the mission senior high school. If you go to Wesley Girls, for instance, if you go to Presbyterian Boys, Presec, Legon, for instance, you encounter a certain Presbyterian discipline in that school. So we just don't own the schools. We have chaplains that belong to the Presbyterian Church. We have the heads of the institution must usually are Presbyterian, because we demand that as part of the agreement, and so on. So you see Presbyterianism running through the life of the school. And if you really go through that school, you will not live without that Presbyterian work ethic and discipline touching your life. So we just don't own the schools.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're satisfied with the level of influence that you have for now?
It
could be more?
Yes, we wish we could have more than that. We wish we could even affect the curriculum. Sometimes.
But why can't you affect the curriculum?
Sometimes we feel like when the government is going to make changes to the curriculum, we are major stakeholders, and the government should consult us. But sometimes Sometimes they do. Let me not say that they don't do at all. Sometimes they do. But sometimes we realize, or they realize on hindsight that this is what we realize on hindsight that this is what they have done. It's a bit too late for us to impact it. Because they are under the Ghana Education Service, they must maintain certain standards that are determined by Ghana Education Service or the Ministry of Education. That is why our influence in terms of the curriculum is limited. But at any stage, if they want to introduce something, we feel like as major stakeholders, we must be consulted. And where we do not feel comfortable with whatever is introduced, we are going to voice that out. That is the amount of influence we have at this point. Okay. We wish we could have even more. We wish we could be allowed to introduce, if there are 10 subjects, give us 3 or 4. That will just be, if you like, mission-based curriculum or subjets. But we'll get there someday.
Interesting take as we continue to speak to Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayose, General Secretary of the Christian Council. And recently there was also an interesting conversation about taxing churches.
Yes.
What was the Christian Council's take on that?
Oh, our position was very clear, and we made that clear to the President as well, that we do not have a problem. We actually pay taxes. Churches pay taxes. As a pastor, I'm an employee of the church. I pay taxes. I pay income tax. I pay all the necessary taxes. We own facilities. If we own a hospital, for instance, and our hospitals are usually, again, like education, are in partnership with the government. So the government pays salaries of staff and so on. But if we own a facility, like say a hospitality facility, like say a guest house or a restaurant, we pay all the taxes that we have to pay. The only item that we do not pay taxes on is the offering that we collect.
Okay.
And we are very clear on that as well, that the government should not even try to tax that. Because in fact, it has been taxed already. When you took your salary as a member of the church, your income was taxed.
Okay.
And out of that income, you voluntarily gave a certain portion to the church. Okay. So if the government taxes it again, it will be double taxation. The government makes the rules and regulations in the country, so they can still decide to tax it, but that will be unfair. That's the point we are trying to make, to tax it again. But secondly, the monies we collect, especially in the more established churches, we use them for social services. And in some countries, anytime you use funds for those services, they are written off your taxes. Okay, so because when they take taxes, they are going to use it for those things anyway. So if we are doing that in the first place, why tax it again? I don't know if you get my argument. So for those two reasons, we say for the offerings, it's a no-go area.
Okay,
you can't touch that. But any other thing that generates income for the church can be taxed, just like any business.
Okay.
Because it's a business.
All right, then. We will take another break, and when we return, we will wrap up our conversation with Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayose.
Travel the country in just 30 minutes on the U-Tour bus.
I'm just coming from the home or from the palace of the new Yana. This is our story being told.
Journeys to explore.
From the plains to the greens to the scenery to everything.
There's so much we need to do, to boost tourism around this area. That guy was just getting up.
Learn and indulge in the culture and lifestyle of the people. U-Tour shows on City TV every Saturday at 1 p.m.
Well, hello, Ghana. Hello, beautiful people. You're welcome to the all-new season of your most exciting, most entertaining Saturday program. I'm talking Saturday Live, right here on City TV.
For your Saturday afternoon entertainment, for wholesome music, interactive interviews, and live band performances at its best.
Where them day, our missing children, where them day, the Takrady girls say where them day. Me, I'm not afraid to say, Kuma, where you go? No, be you to say my beloved country is free forever. But people still in suffer. Kuma, where you go?
Watch Saturday Live with Nana Joa Sarkodie and Nana Tufo Boateng every Saturday at 2 p.m. only on City TV.
Welcome back to Face with Reverend Dr. Asirofai, the General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana. Now, Reverend, let's talk a bit about yourself as well. You're also an academic. You used to teach. Do you still teach?
I don't teach any longer because I'm doing all this, running around.
But what do you miss the classroom? I read you were teaching counseling and pastoral care.
Yeah, pastoral care and counseling, yes. I really miss the classroom because there's something about teaching that connects you with the student. And it's not only the student that is learning or the students that are learning, but it's also you, the teacher or the lecturer, that is also learning a lot. Because before you come and sit in front of them to teach them, you must prepare first. But at the end of the day, you all grow together. You all learn new things. Because sometimes you put hypothetical problems in front of them, and you also learn from those problems. Counseling situations, for instance. I mean, if there's someone bereaved, how do you help that person? You all look at it. They proffer their suggestions. You also put yours on the table. And together you all learn. That's what I miss about the classroom. I don't miss the marking of scripts, though. I miss the teaching. I don't mean the interaction, the conversation. Yeah.
And you were teaching pastoral care. What is that?
Pastoral care is basically how you care for the flock.
Oh, okay.
How to care for members of the church.
Okay.
So it's a big part of the work of a pastor.
Okay.
You see other parts of the work of the pastor, like the preaching and so on, the administrative bits. Most people don't realize that one of the key things the pastor does is actually care for members in good times and in bad times. So when they are well, even for graduations, for instance, they still need someone to pat them on the back, to say, you've done well, congratulations to them. That is part of the pastoral care. And then in bad times, when they are sick, when they are bereaved, you must be there for them. You are like a shepherd.
Okay.
Yeah, the word pastor comes from pasture. You are taking the flock out to pasteurize them, to feed them. Okay.
And my last question, I've always wanted to ask this of a pastor. So it's good you are here because the psychology background and then the pastor as well. You take burdens of so many people. How do you handle? It must be stressful, the jobs that you have, honestly speaking.
Yeah.
How do you handle your stress?
Yeah. I love football.
Oh, I love watching or playing?
Both. Oh, okay. But these days I don't play any longer. After I developed pot belly, you don't play football. But I love movies as well. These days I try to play tennis, lawn tennis. Yeah.
How's that going?
It's going well. I enjoy it. I just don't get enough time to play.
Okay.
I used to be in Ho, and when I was in Ho, I played a lot more because there was no traffic.
Okay.
So I could get up in the morning, go play tennis before get to work at 8:30 or 9 in the morning. But not in Accra. Accra, you spend that time in traffic.
All right.
So those are the things I do to relax.
Right.
But we have to take care of ourselves. And I take time off as well.
Okay.
I take my leaves all the time.
Or you don't leave it hanging?
No. I try to take it and get away from everything.
All right, and that's a lesson I'm taking away from you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayose, General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana, for being our guest on Face to Face.
You are most welcome.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Face to Face. My name is Godfrey Akoto-Boafo. Have a good day.